Hi, this is Mr. Ward, and this is the Algebra Exit Ticket 32.1 video key, and let's go to it. So we want to find out what are the x-intercepts, or zeros, or solutions, or roots for this equation. Y equals x minus 97 times x plus 1 times x minus 238. Well, to get x-intercepts, and reminder that zeros and solutions and roots are just other names for x-intercepts. So if we wanted to get all of those x-intercepts, of course, there are three linear equations being multiplied times each other here. And when you multiply three linear equations times each other, you will get three x-intercepts. So let's think about what it would take. Well, for this first one, if x was 97, and you may hear my kitten playing with a toy behind me, but if I made x into 97, this factor would become 97 minus 7, and therefore it would be 0. So if I made this 97, all of the x's would be 97. That x would be 97, that x would be 97, and this would be 97 minus 97, which would be 0. And it'd be 0 times whatever those other things are, and we don't care anymore about what they are once that's 0. So x would be 97, but we're not done. So let me turn that back into an x. Let's look at the next factor. Each factor you want to examine. So what x value would I plug in to add to 1 to make a 0? Well, negative 1 plus 1 would be 0. So once this is negative 1 and all the other x's are negative 1, we actually wouldn't even care about them because this would be 0. And so the whole thing would equal 0 because one of the factors is 0. So x would equal negative 1. And then the third x-intercept we would get from the last factor. And if x equaled 238, this one would be 0 as well because 238 minus 238 is 0. So x equals 238. And x back in there. All of the x's would be 238 if I plugged in x as 238 as an input, and it wouldn't matter what 238 minus 97 and 238 plus 1 were, because 238 minus 238 is 0, and 0 times anything is 0. All right, now we're going to get the square root of both sides of this equation. So let's do that, and we're going to solve for x. So I'm going to grab my pen. I'm going to use green this time. We get the square root of that and the square root of that. So square root of the square of x minus 500. Well, once again, if you get the square root of a square, the square root and the square cancel out. So we're just left with x minus 500. And the square root of 9 is 3, but it's also negative 3. So x minus 500 equals negative 3. And we just have to solve for x here. So on the left side, I'm just going to be adding 500 to both sides. So I'll just say plus 500, and then plus 500 here. Yeah, come on, typing. And plus 500. So I end up with x equals 500 plus 3, which will be 503. And I also end up with x equals negative 3 plus 500, which will be 497. And I've solved it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now we're going to expand or multiply this one. And this happens to be the difference of squares structure, but you could do it from the level 2 stage of things. But if you notice that you have the same two things in two factors, in the first place, in one case, I should say, being subtracted, in the other case being added, then you are going to have a cancellation of the middle term. So 3x times 4 will give you a 12x. The negative 4 times 3x will give you a negative 12x. So there's no middle term. 12x and negative 12x make a 0. But you will have 3x times 3x, which will be 9x squared. And you will have negative 4 times 4, which will be negative of 4 squared, which is 16. And you're done with that one. What are the x-intercepts of this one? Now, this one, it's a little more complicated because we have a 2x plus 1 and a 4x minus 3. There's some stuff in front of the x you got to deal with. So we just take each factor and we set it equal to 0. 2x plus 1 equals 0. Let me try making a 0 with my thing here. There we go. And then we also have 4x minus 3 equals 0. So once you set those to be equal to 0, you'll be able to find the x value that would make them equal to 0. And so that's what we're going to do. So for this first one, we'll subtract 1 from both sides. And you'll end up with 2x equals negative 1. And then you will divide both sides by 2. And when you do that, the 2's over here cancel out, and x equals negative 1/2. And then over here, we're going to add 3 to both sides. This is a two-stepper. Plus 3 on this side. And we end up with 4x equals 3. And then you just have to divide both sides by 4. Divide that by 4 to make that 4 go bye-bye, turn into a 1. And divide that by 4 because both sides were 4 times too big. And so x will also equal 3/4. And so our answer is negative 1/2 and positive 3/4. And I hope that was useful and helpful for you.